name's Tom. Some of you know me, some of you don't. But let's see, where do we start? This is called A Walk in the Dark. Not sure where to begin, but I suppose we start way back when, 30 some odd years ago. When I was like 14, kind of walked away from the church. I walked away from God and Jesus. So, done things in my life that would scare the hell out of most people. Done places most people won't dare to go. Done things that could kill most people. Been in some serious crap in my life, but that all changed, probably about 6, 7 years ago. During that walk in the dark, I tried a lot of different things, witchcraft, paganism, Norse paganisms, Druidism, just, a lot of different things, just trying to find my way. Don't mind the dog. But, it's kind of weird that, my wife, who was passed 6 months ago, got me to come listen to a preacher at church. Something I hadn't done in years. It took her a while to convince me to go. And, her telling me that he was a lot like us and, had a lot of the same beliefs that, in a roundabout way that we had. Well, took her about a month or so to convince me to go. Finally went. Kind of clicked. He's different. He looks different than the most pastors that you see, or reverends, or whatever you want to call them nowadays. But listening to him talk kind of woke something up inside me. The Revenant Fellowship, or the beginnings of the Revenant Fellowship, and listened to him preach. Started playing music again after many years of not playing. Started playing worship music, which obviously, from the looks of me and what I normally listen to, it's farthest thing away from what I was. But, this went on for about a year or so. And then he had to go elsewhere and do other things. So it was like back to square one again, trying to find somewhere to fit in, because I didn't fit in with the churches. I did not fit in with, your normal church, any denomination that you could think of. Didn't fit in, not the same style, looks, tastes, all that stuff. Regular conventional church was not for me. Went through just, a couple of years of trying to figure out what was going on in my life, where I was supposed to go, what God wanted me to do. Then he was back around town for a while. He was playing a conference. Went to the conference. Listened to him play. Listened to him preach. Seeds were planted that day by God. It's the only way I can explain it. Because it took, after that, he went back out to do what he had to do where God called him to go. And he, just trying to figure out where I fit in again. And my wife wanted me to check out this other preacher, and kind of thought it would be a nice fit. After a while, she begged me to come. I went to a prayer meeting with her, and it started a whole chain of things where I started going to the church, started playing in their worship band, and kind of, was feeling my way through that, and while I was, back with God, back with Jesus, and, back on the path where it's supposed to be. All on the walk in the dark, you choose paths you want to go, free will. God didn't make you do it. The devil didn't make you do it. It's just your will. They can sway the influence a little bit, but they can't make you do it. But, and the drugs, the alcohol, black magic, witchcraft, paganisms, all that stuff in my walk. I was led down that path for a reason, I believe. That way, somebody who's along that is, going along that path can see that there is a way back to God. And, some of us are here to help, try to do that, help people when we can, if they're going to listen. That's the big thing, is like people are going to have to do it. The first pastor I was talking about was Elijah Ingraham. He's the one that I was seeing when the seed was planted. Like I said, it took 5-6 years for that seed to germinate to where it brought me back full circle, back to Jesus. Things happened, with this other church. Didn't, just kind of fell out. Didn't feel comfortable, didn't feel right. So I kind of just went my way. Got back hold of Elijah when he was back in this neck of the woods. Started talking with him again. Him and I talked, it's like we never missed a beat. We were apart from each other for about 5 years, but when we got back together, it's like we never missed a beat. We were, right there in sync with one another, with our ideals for what God, His plans for us that we are walking towards. It's the Revenant Fellowship. It's that weird that what was planted. The seed that was planted, germinated for 6 years, to come full circle back to Elijah. In the Revenant Fellowship. Elijah has his branding as the Raven King. There's, our ideals line up, what we should do, what we should be doing for Christ. I know the path I got to follow with Christ. It's my path. My path's not going to be the same as anybody else's path. Everybody's path is different. But, God brings you to people and puts people in your life at certain times to nudge you along. And that's, why He put Elijah in my life, to nudge me back towards the right path. Instead of walking in the dark, was to walk in the light of God. Hi, Kitty. I may lose followers followers because this will go on my social media feeds. I may lose followers, I may gain followers. It don't matter to me. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. It does not matter to me. I'm not a typical Christian. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm far from perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. But what I can do is live my life the way God has intended for me to live it. Like I said, this will go all on all my social media pages. Chop it down, edit it. The time constraints for whatever. But I just figured I would share this. Come on, kitty. Thank you. But it is what it is. I know what I have to do, and this is part of that. It's talking about my walk in the dark. I've been in some pretty dark places in my life. Like I said, a lot of them probably should have killed me. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, this has been the first episode of A Walk in the Dark. Thank you. Have a nice day.